Hello everybody, welcome back to the desk for the LJLOU, bringing you that LJL Spring Split coverage of the 2021 Spring Split. Moss one here, still in the hosting seat, Initialize there, still in the play-by-play seat, Nightmare on the other side, still our resident analyst and caster, color caster. Gentlemen, coming into our second game of the day, V3 Esports facing off against Burning Core. And this is an important match, more for Burning Core, less for V3. V3 are pretty much locked in. A win for them will put them into that third place spot, which they would love to have and not have to worry about a tiebreaker match against Sengoku Gaming. Whereas over on the other side for Burning Core, they need a win to basically make playoffs and not have to have that problem against the Hawks. One of these teams is expected to win, one of these teams isn't. There's a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. Who wants to go first?
Guess I'll take it right out of the bat. I look at this and I see Burning Core and I think, all right, this is your mountain to climb. You've been at base camp for a long time in this split, and they've not
Long
really
time.
managed to.
All split, Nymera. All split.
Uh, well,
They
they
got
are a
one win in
team.
week one, and then they back to back beat Axis.
Yeah, well, there you go, right? That's kind of your thing. They're at 3 wins, and they desperately need another one. They desperately need something to secure playoffs. Heck, even a win versus V3 doesn't quite secure them playoffs, because if they lose versus the Hawks in their next match, then it actually leaves them having a tiebreaker. But a win here starts things off on the right foot, and they, like I said, they desperately need that right now.
Uh, Time to follow up. At the minute, we have three teams tied with 3 wins in the standings. Burning Core and the Hawks are about to play their 2 matches with an overlap where they face each other. That puts them basically with their fate in their own hands right now. And Burning Core obviously first up to the plate, but this is their chance to secure that last playoff spot. This is their chance to put their way in. Yes, the rest of the split has been rough, but this will get you in, and frankly, all your regular season woes, all of those kind of foibles and sins mean nothing in playoffs, because at that point, you're there. You can do what you like at that point. You can prove yourself a better team. That doesn't matter. You're in, and all that matters is getting over that finish line, however dirty and however kind of unpleasant it was getting there in the first place.
Way V3 could potentially be looking at this match going, well, Burning Core, we hope you win your next match. We hope to see you in playoffs because we win here. We get to pick you as our best of 5 opponent in the first round of playoffs. Let's go, lads. Let's go. And I mean, if you're either if you're either B3 Esports or the side of Sengoku Gaming, you have to be looking at a team like Burning Core at the moment and licking your lips. You're like, this is a team I'd love to play in a best of 5, make it through to the round 2. It feels like you almost got to buy at a point.
But we said that last split.
Wait a second.
Burning Core then took DFM to 5 games.
Mm.
There is some kind of sleeping dragon within this Burning Core roster. It's just not one that we've really seen this split. They've not been that formidable. They've not been that scary. Rayfarky one's not really firing on all cylinders. Heck, they're firing on like 1 or 2 maximum right now. This team has struggled to get off the ground, but if they do, we do know the ceiling of each of these players can be very, very high, particularly when you look at once Rayfarky and Proud.
I want to do something a little bit different here. I want to get your predictions now, so then we can be explaining the thought process for this. So initially, I'm going to come to you first. Who are you predicting out of this matchup? And then what is your reason for this? And then we're going to play a counterpoint game of, is there a way for the opposite side to actually find the victory for you?
So this matchup, I think it's still pretty V3 favored. There is a reason V3 have the win.
Can I just stop you there?
That's it.
Nymeria, who are you going
I'm
with?
also saying it's V3 favored.
All right, initially, let's go for it.
Yeah, I just think V3 are currently the better team. They have been laning better.
Makes sense.
Nothing else, and that has been my main problem with Burning Core, is that they have found themselves in holes just from lanes. I think the most egregious one was when they lost every single plate pretty much in every single lane nearly simultaneously from various different flaws and decisions they made through the game, and that isn't good enough.
So then it comes over to Nymera. Is there a way for Burning Core to win this one?
Technically, yes. There is a Nexus that they can kill. It's not like that is no longer an option. I look at this though and I say, okay, Rayfarky versus Cog. As much as Rayfarky is often the winning player for Burning Core, this is a hard matchup. Cog is a good player. Sure, Ebby just kind of took Cog a bit to town, but that's kind of what you expect of Ebby. Rayfarky has been in 2020 at least. Up there is maybe the second best laning top laner. Afman's in the conversation too, of course. And then you look at Cog and you think, all right, that's no easy matchup, particularly since they are out of Elo Hell from the previous Rascal Jester lineup. But so then I look, okay, can you do bot lane? Not versus Hollow and Reiner, I don't think. And the jungle matchup in mid is not anything of a really a mismatch. So for me, it has to be some kind of egregious draft error from V3, which they've been scarcely making this split to let Burning Core into this game.
Then, gentlemen, what kind of crazy off-meta stuff could we see? Is it going to be the Rayfarky Darius coming out? Is it going to be something like the Kindred from once that we saw? What are the kind of things we might want to see? Let's go initialize first.
I think you have to give Yuhi something which can defend itself and get Proud out of that lane because they are not winning the 2v2s. Play through once or Gadiadu, or get Gadiadu unlocked to play through Rayfarky. Basically, try and get some of these players who can roam back up once and get something going that way. That was always a strength of Burning Core. We're saying, look, we have got play-making tools to the nines. We have got slight issues with the way our lanes are going right now. So let's not care about laning. Let's get picks going on. Let's get some playmaking going on and try and get the likes of Proud and Gario roaming with once to cause some carnage elsewhere on the map.
We already started seeing this from the side of E3 Nightmare. We saw that Nunu and Willemp coming out. We know Muujin likes to play, honestly, whatever he wants to play, and everything else kind of goes in. It's very Dardoch-esque over it to make that LCS kind of comparison.
You mean Dardoch is Muujin-esque?
Right. No, and they're both Boogie-esque. So,
there you go.
What could we maybe see from V3 if they might make that mistake or nefarious, overexcited kind of pick and ban phase, which could maybe cause some issues?
Well, like I said, I think the onus is kind of on, on V3 to make that mistake, right? Because I look at Burning Core and think, well, the only thing which I would like to see out of them maybe is something like a Jace for Rayfarky, which we've not seen the entire split. We know it's a champion that he plays, and it might
Which is a flex for V3.
Exactly, it is, yeah. So I look at this and I think, well, maybe V3 can pick up something like that in their own right, but we haven't seen that for quite some time now. So then it's like, well, what could V3 do to kind of make that mistake? Well, that's yet to be seen. There are a great many ways a draft can go wrong, and I don't think many of them, though, will really give Burning Core the advantage they really need to win a game.
So what we're saying here is Burning
Give
Core
over
are climbing
Senna,
up.
sure, that's how Burning Core win.
So we're saying like Senna and Seraphine need to somehow make it through the draft. Burning Core have to get both of them and play it pretty well. Are we going for kind of like the crazy kind of line? Like they need to get the ultra high pick champions. They need to get Urya and Seraphine in the same game, somehow force it in. Even though these champions are getting like close to 100% pick or ban rate, and you're just never going to get them.
Let's narrow it down a little bit. Let's give some very obvious win cons. I think you get Proud on something like Alistair. Because, yes, he's a great Thresh player, but the thing with Alistair is you can just force engages in teamfights and be tank for some of your members who have been a bit caught out. Get Gadiadu on something where he is in a confident matchup where he can then come in and back that up. But as long as Proud is on something playmaking and you can get a carry working for once, if it's the Graves that gets ahead early, you can at least play around these objective fights and contest. See, roll the dice from there. It might be a bit weighted to V3, but you can roll the dice from there.
I look at how Once has played Graves. The thing is, his early game has been suspect. If he gets the late game team fights, he's still been the carry we know him to be. It's just the consistency of doing that in the late game, right? Well, in the early game, rather.
And this is an important spot for Burning Core, because if anything they show here, it makes a big impact, but they're not able to get that victory. The Hawks could be watching this and being like, huh, we weren't going to do anything crazy but now we're going to change something up. So this is in a really precarious spot. And how much bleed through effect between these two matches do you think we might see from these two teams?
V3 are off the back of an awkward loss. It wasn't a particularly nice one. That goes one of two ways. Either it's exceptionally demoralizing and you come in worse in the next game by a notable margin, or it lights a fire under your ass. And V3 are going to come in super, super angry is the other option. And they're going to look to kind of stop down on this one. The problem is, even with that, you can come in and almost overcorrect, and you can get punished for that as well. So I'll be interested, because it is potentially a change in mindset, because you don't come out of a bit of a slap like that feeling great. And that, I mean, it's also for V3. This is a relatively important one. This is how they stop Sengoku from getting a tiebreaker. So they really want this win.
I mean, Burning Core have everything to prove. Sengoku Gaming looking to get this win so they don't have to play a tiebreaker match. And if we look over the history of these two teams, it's not surprising that we're hugely V3 favored. If we look over at the official stream and bring that kind of graphic on screen at the moment, Cog versus Rayfaki, something we've already talked about. Even though Rayfaki had such huge stats, typically, Cog's just beating him in every way, Nightmare.
Apart from the kill on assist of 15, Cog has not often been involved on that side of the map. I suppose that's because Mujin has not really gone towards the early gang's top lane. Heck, even last game we saw that the heavy index onto that bot side. But you look at the CS difference and the gold difference at 15. Kogog has been very good in lane. Of course, you didn't really get the best example of that out of that last game, but Ebby is kind of the special example within the LJL. Not to detract from what Kogog has been doing, I think that Kogog's in for a shout, the best top lane of this split so far. He's had a very good split. Rayfaki really needs to step up to the plate and show that he can have that performance that he had within 2020.
Like, I think it's also, I want to call out that, you look at the CSD at 15, and like, Rayfaki is third behind Kokuk is second, but look at the gulf between those stats. Like, that is a big difference in CSD at 15 for these guys. I mean, the only person that's ahead of Kokuk in any of these stats is Ebby, right? And we've just talked about how, frustrating he can be to lane against, and Kokuk has been really, really good this split. And yes, Rayfaki's still got good CSD, third in the league and all that, but even so, that is a big, big difference. And that discrepancy, I think, has proved in the way that Cog has been playing this split. He's really, really had a strong one, even there's been one or two games where he's been caught out a little bit on the weak side.
I think this really shows that Rayfaki is well and truly one of the better players in the LJL and one of the best top laners. He just sometimes struggles with being able to come and overthrow and kind of maybe get momentum from his maybe very small micro advantages and kind of translate that into something else. Obviously, you do need assistance from your team, and some of his parts on the team of Burning Core haven't quite been there to be able to back him up and allow him to maybe try and carry a game. Gentlemen, we're 3 for 3 on V3 Esports. We're currently waiting for the pick and ban phase. I don't think we were expecting to do a 15-minute podcast on V3 Esports Burning Core.
Hey,
coming
we can
into
do
this.
it.
That's what we sign up for some days. Remember, first broadcast of the split, 35 minutes of straight pause.
Yeah, that was great.
We're having the rematch of that match as our game of the day, which is going to be the Hawks Burning Core. And I'm really hopeful for our guest caster of Counterfeit that we don't have another 35-minute pause, or might have to go to break for that one. Because
I've got ourselves some content to talk about. Because obviously, I think it's fair to say that we're all V3 favored on this desk in this match. And we do have a predictions board. We do have that on our Discord. And absolutely, please come join that.
Especially for playoffs.
Especially playoffs is going to be a heck of a good thing. Our producer, Reed, has picked Burning Core for this match. And I think it's now time that we question the sanity of the person who gets to put our faces on screen. I now will wait for my face to be replaced with an IIR. But I think that's an important topic we now have to answer.
Yeah, I've also got a quote here.
Oh, come on.
Insulting the producer is always a risk, but have got to call out this DFM going 0-2 today. Quote me on that. Was dear old Reed not that long ago. So maybe his prediction game isn't quite on there yet, but either way.
I'm telling you, it's coming for you next time.
Well, before he can even come for you, lads, Seraphine has already been banned by V3, so nothing crazy like that will happen for Burning Core. V3 Esports and Burning Core are in the pick and ban phase. Gentlemen, take it away.
And our podcasting days are over. Long have we waited. Burning Core versus V3 activated. V3 over on the blue side, Burning Core on the red. And Cog, Mujin, Ace, Hollow, and Reiner reprise their roles for V3.
No surprise for Burning Core's lineup either. It is Ray Farkey, once Gadiadu, Yuhi, and Proud for Burning Core.
Now looking in at some of these picks and bans, Lexi called it already. The Seraphine was taken off by V3. It is very strong. Olaf and Hecarim also taken away from Once. They have been pretty high priority junglers, can definitely do a lot of carrying. On the other side, that Jinx away from Hollow, it didn't work out in the last game, but that never really got a chance to try and work out, and they'll ban out the Senna and the Gnar as well to round out their first options for bans. That does leave Udyr up for first pick, and it is taken very quickly by V3.
Well, damn, that's one of the Burning Core win conditions gone. They don't get themselves a free sender because V3 forgot about it. That's going to be a problem. Now they have to face up against Muujin's Udyr, which has that early game pressure, the huge clear speed, and less of the unreliability that something like a Nunu can bring. Proud will get themselves a playmaking champion of their choice, and it's going to be the Rel. That is a win condition. And we also know that Once has continually gone back to the Graves regardless of success on it.
I completely agree. And of course, it's locked in. There is the Graves. Once has had some interesting games on this. I think sometimes his struggles in the early game are a little bit symptomatic of larger problems in Burning Core in lane because they're not backing up Once in the way that I think he would like, or is honestly necessary right now for junglers. But if this guy has managed to survive the early game, much like Burning Core, then the Graves has been pretty damn dangerous in Once's hands, even if the win rate doesn't necessarily reflect that. The response from V3 is they're going, okay, we just got bodied by a Tristana lane. Let's return the favor. All in time, baby. It's not a Rel, but a Leona will do just fine.
Rhino was playing this Leona in the finals last split against DFM. Of course, that was a takeaway from the Shen-Leona combo that DFM were playing at the time, but Rhino made it work. It's going to be up against Gadianu's Twisted Fate, and actually, that's something which Burning Core can play around. Gadianu is a notable TF player. He played that to beat the rampant CGA of Summer 2020. Actually, remembering back to that too, he's a player proficient in it. The question is, what are you now going to use to allow that TF to set up?
And Nymera, is that another win condition for Burning Core that we were talking about? Like, hang on, Proud's on a playmaker, Gadiadu on something can get out of lane and start affecting other places. I mean, is this it? This is looking like this is some good options here for Burning Core. Bans in the second phase, though, as I try to build some hype up here. I mean, is it my role? Possibly, but hey, what are you going to do? Nocturne and Aurelia, the bans for Burning Core. Interesting choices, whereas the other side, very much those AD top laners that are aggressive, dangerous 1v1 options in the community.
And ends up shutting down stuff like the Twisted Fate and his impact on the game pretty well. On the other side, we see that Ray Farkey has two of his carries taken away from him. That's a problem, I suppose, and maybe it does open up the fact that, hey, maybe we can go for something like the Jace on that top side. It's going to be Yuhi picking up Kai'Sa. This is 11.4 Kai'Sa, not as strong as it was in the past, but still something that is worth playing around. It has that pick CC as well, not the pick CC, but the ability to follow up on pick CC. You go in with a gold card, you have a collateral damage and a killer instinct funneling in onto your chosen target. Seems like a pretty good combo from Burning Core. Question is, again, what's the top lane going to come out from Burning Core? I think it has to be a carry.
I think it probably does, unless you really, really, really want to push onto this Tristana-Leona combo, which of course you can do. That's a lot of engage down there. They've got the Azir to back up how this game was. And honestly, yes, Ace, we saw there was some unfortunate moments, but he was the guy who was making good plays on the Azir. Yes, they didn't work out versus DFM, but the idea was sound. We always had that kind of truth to them. The attempt in the bot lane, the attempt onto Saros, all made sense, and I'm happy to see the recovery. It's not the carry in the top side, it will be the Ornn.
Well, and again, talking about that Azir from Ace in last game, there's only so much you can do as an Azir when you're in that 1 versus X scenario. It's been something which has happened a lot in the LJL. Some of our best players have had to face that and have been able to carry out that same situation. Ace has still managed to find himself with decent CS and a number of other things. It's not going to be the carry top lane, it's going to be the Gragas instead that Ray Farkey has so often gone back towards. At least a little bit more safety against that Udyr. But Burning Core, this seems like I would have loved to see that Jace. I genuinely would have done. They're going back to a bit more of that tried and tested, but not necessarily successful.
That is a lot of pick CC from Burning Core. I'll give them that. And of course, Kai'Sa can follow up on wherever Twisted Fate goes with the Killer Instinct. So Graves starts things off, in goes Rel, everyone else turns up a moment later with their R buttons, which is always good. That said though, V3, are a little less on the pick and a little bit more about that front to back. Ornn, Leona, and an Udyr as frontline and engage with a Tristana and an Azir to pump out the backline DPS. You hit level 16, you hit 3-4 items, and those two characters, those two champions, absolutely shred whatever is in front of them.
And they do it from such a long range away, you don't really get to say much about it. This is why the combo has been picked up a number of times. Heck, I think it was actually Axis that picked it up for the first time in week, I don't know, 4 or 5. They used that to beat the Rascal Jesters. Of course, they weren't on in full flight at that point, but this is a combo which the LJL has gone back to time and time again. Ornn, less so this split, less so worldwide. Kogok was one of our better Ornn players last year in 2020. Our best was probably Nap, actually, over still holding up that top lane role for CGA, but Kogok, no slouch on the pick either.
Mas1, out off screen, of course, just went to go grab himself a coffee, refresh that caffeine intake, comes back and types like, wait, what? Twisted Fate got through pick and ban. And that kind of surprise, I think on the other side, is something we probably ought to talk about, because it is a little bit of a surprise to see Galliano get a hold of this pick. It's been banned so much.
No, we do have the build draw to swindle duo between Graves and TF. That's something you could play around. It means that if you're looking at Muujin trying to battle ward versus Graves, there's a chance that TF flies in and turns things around. The problem is, I look at TF is not really going to be playing with a carry on the top side, which is his preference, nor is he going to be playing with pressure in the bot side, because that 2v2 does go the way of Tristana, Leona, as far as I'm aware. Kai'Sa not the best champion into that Tristana. So I look at this TF and thinking, good individual pick, maybe not the best composition, or at least the game state to work with, though.
Yeah, just getting some quick stats up for Twisted Fate. This has only been picked once before this game, and outside of that has been banned 25 times. Oh, apologies, picked twice before this game. Quick correction there. That is a significant difference. This pick has been very high priority and just not been let through the draft. So yes, it might be a little bit tricky, as you kind of been suggesting, maybe not the easiest, but certainly got enough potency to be making a lot of teams wary in the LJL.
I would agree with that. I mean, the thing about TF is that he is just that wild card, right? And with all puns intended for that one. He has the ability to survive or succeed in lane versus most champions in the game. There are a few which can make him struggle a little bit. If you're going to pick up something like a Syndra, you do have some solo kill opportunities. But particularly in the current patch, when you do have a lot of sustain from the likes of Inspiration, going towards Spellbook, having your potions and whatever, potions and biscuits, TF's hard to remove from lane. He ends up getting into the game, and his first ultimate is often hard to really deny from the other team. How you do deny it, though, is just by having either safe or very dominant lanes which are hard to really punish in their own right. I look at the Tristan and Leona. If you jump into the TF and down to that bot lane when they've managed to control the tempo of that lane, that's not going to go particularly well for you. There's a chance you get turned around on. Tristana's turnaround damage is insanely high in the early game compared to most AD carries. And particularly because Udyr gets across the map so quickly, if you are passing the right information off, I don't expect TF to have an uncontested roam opportunity.
Interesting. So that is worth keeping our eyes on, of course. And that's the other thing of flow on from jungle pressure as well. Like, if you manage to get your jungler out and getting some vision in from into the river, having got yourself some lane priority before that, that kind of domino effect leads on to being able to watch for Twisted Fate when he tries to leave lane, when he tries to roam towards somewhere. If you just spot him on vision the entire way your CCTV network is set up, you go, yep, it's going bot, still going bot, and everyone else is like, cool, back it away, no problem here. Like, then you kind of feel a little bit like Twisted Fate doesn't have that much in the way of teeth. Have that much teeth, I think is the way to remember how to phrase that, and have to see whether Galliano can do something with it, because of course Burning Call, you know, we asked them to roll the dice, right? I suppose they'll have to do the same, but, you know, rather bet on the cards instead. Gambling references, perhaps.
Well, you say that. I mean, Sam, Twisted Fate's passive is literally called loaded dice.
Well, okay, fair enough. That's actually really true.
This is
still
very topical.
Okay. The point, I was trying to go for that. Yeah, that was my point. There we go.
Oh man,
I could have made a cleaner point.
I think it's really important that you do mention in terms of early game pressure, trying to play around certain lanes, the information you're getting to stop TF having uncontested roams off of vision. It's kind of the way that you play with Ashe when you do have that AD carry too, when you're thinking, let's just pink ward out the bot side of the river. Thing is, though, in this game is that What you want is these supports, either supporting or negating Twisted Fate's ability to impact the game. But if you leave this Kaiser alone with the Tristana, that doesn't go well. That is a one-way trip to getting your solo kill onto your Tristana. Onto the Kaiser rather, from the Tristana. I don't think that works well for V3, particularly that because you do have that heal versus cleanse disparity. He doesn't have the ability to 1v1 very effectively in this game, which means that if both supports are roaming, advantage goes to V3 as well.
And that's just the way it is. Kaiser is used to being the one jumping on people. Tristana kind of returns the favor, but with a basic ability rather than an ultimate. And I think it's interesting to watch some of those stats as well. I can't quite recall them off the top of my head, but I remember watching on a couple of the other leagues when they are talking about Tristana into the Kaiser and where the win percentages come through for these guys. Basically, from what I remember, and I will have to double check this myself, but the idea is that Kaiser, if she's ahead with 2 items, tends to win the game, but kind of beyond that, Tristana, the later the game goes, just starts to win those 1v1s.
So Kaiser does fall off into the late game in some ways, particularly because of how certain regions play the game, right? If you play a very 1-3-1 style, if you play the map very wide, yeah, Kaiser's more important than a lot of other champions because later into the game, your follow-up range from the Killer Instinct is so hard to deny, and that's going to be a big thing in this game too. Gold card into late game or even mid game, Kaiser ultimates flying through. Will be important to see if Vernicore can pick off someone like the Azir, someone like Muujin who might just be trying to catch up and ward or farm side lanes or something like that. And someone like Galdeadu has been a notable TF player. I think TF is actually the most banned champion versus Burning Core. 75% of the games it is banned against them. It's banned most of the time, though. I suppose you can kind of add that as a caveat, saying, well, it'll be banned against most teams. Well, Galdeadu is still a notable TF player. That's one of the champions where I would think of this player when that champion is mentioned.
What is it with teams with face-checking Tristanas in that middle bush these days? Once is going to try and invade onto this Gromp, goes in for the steal and gets it. Once has taken that one away. It is always big money to get away the Gromp, and cheeky play from Once. He plays it well, gets the steal away in the jungle.
So I actually would like to request a statistic from production. I want to know Once's average CS difference or gold difference at 15. Because it's not often that he gets steals. Often it's the time when he is, it's often that he is the person being pushed around in the early game. He steals away a Gromp. Sure, he's probably going to have his Raptors taken away from him on spawn as Muujin moves in there. But the fact that Once is kind of still competitive in this early game, even 5 minutes in, it's not something we've always seen from Burning Core.
Yeah, I actually tend to agree on that one. Curious to see what those stats are myself and see whether that comes up at that point. Nothing too much else going on aside from Galdeadu, who might be about to have Muujin run him in a... Well, he's definitely not a bear, and it's definitely not a Udyr, so I don't know who that was running through mid lane, but some crazy man walks through, skin puns aside, as Ray Farkey taking a very nice trade versus Cog, but shy of mana to continue the trade, and that's about all she wrote for now. At this point, just seeing where everything else is, and what was the stat you were after again, Nymera?
So I was asking, well, I mean, because actually I've seen them ping up on our little side screen, and so I was asking, well, okay, Once has often fallen behind in the early game. This is not a really good platform. His lanes don't do necessarily well, blah blah blah. Well, actually, Once is often down about 500 gold at 15 minutes. The XP differential not great either. Right now, keeping yourself even as far as things go. We'll have to ask that question again though when we do see something like the Dragon or the Herald start getting picked up, because that's when the jungles start getting a bit more involved. An important thing which just happened there, though, is that we did see both these supports start leaving lane, start getting that vision control down and seeing if that can set up for something like that Twisted Fate. Proud cleared out themselves a ward, put down their own pink ward. There are several deep pink wards inside their own jungle, actually. So actually it's more like shallow pink wards for Burning Core to make sure that actually there was no vision from V3 onto a potential Galdeadu play or roam. But Once on the other side has been spotted trying to steal this Gromp again, but that will mean that Muujin gets in themselves first Dragon.
He does get us first Dragon, so it'll be jungle individual advantage for team advantage, and Colco's going to come over and try and be obnoxious. There he is, spotted away.
Oh, he is coming.
Once does manage to dash away for now, but there is the call of the Forge God. Flashes, still gets knocked up, but there's no real way to continue on with that one. And Ray Farkey didn't roam down, and it'll be flashed down for just the Gromp over, and he couldn't continue to trade into the jungle. And Muujin will be able to go straight back over and go in and return the favor to Once's blue side jungle. Colcock is still around, but Ray Farkey is now roaming in. Galdeadu, of course, at 6 as well.
ult.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I don't know how clean this one would be for Cog.
No, this is the thing. Kokok has just basically been denied. So for using the ultimate and forcing the flash, they're still going to be denied a number of minions. Actually, they're probably going to get denied one melee minion and then maybe a cannon too. Actually, it's going to be more than that now because once it stops him running back to lane.
That is a fairly big deal. That is the price of Cog coming over to try and contest this. And Freyfarki getting to proxy farm a little here as well. Cog caught by his tier 2. And that potentially does hurt a little bit. That's Burning Core playing relatively efficiently around what Cog was doing. Yes, he gets to blow the flash of once, but the punish back has been pretty nice, all things said. And that's a lot of minions lost. That'll be another plate over to Freyfarki as well.
He gets the Demolish proc down, going towards the tank Gragas, slightly more frontline, slightly less burst out. But for the play where once loses his flash and gets a steal, it's still going to be advantage towards the top side for Burning Core. Same can't be said for the other lanes on this map, though. TF getting pushed around just a tad in that mid lane, was edging up towards 10 CS differential there, but now more like that 5, so just about 1 wave difference. And in the bot side, that's where things are getting a little more hairy, because I think Yuhi has had to play more defensively because Proud has been looking to secure some of that vision control. It means that a 10 CS lead goes over to this Tristana.
Yeah, I think also as well, it's where once has been, it's made things a little bit tricky. Freyfarki disengages the gank attempt, but he'll be down an ultimate for the cost of that.
I think that's the right call. You don't want to get yourself into a position where you're losing out on that. Oh,
It's
big
the
room
Goon
from
Squad.
Proud coming up.
It's the Goon Squad. We asked them to get these guys unlocked. Here comes Galliardo as well. He's looking to get in, but of course there's Ace trying to buy space and force Galliardo out as well. And so that will actually be forced out from Burning Core. Destiny is down. He can't even complete the gate because Ace hops over the wall and makes it difficult for him. No summoners burned, of course, by Galliardo, but well played by Ace to force the disengage there from Galliardo.
It is. So now we see Hollow moving up to take this Herald. Are they going to lose anything sizable in bot or mid lane? Hollow's going to pick himself up some CS here. I guess the opportunity cost of V3 moving up their bot lane to respond to that play is the fact that they do end up losing a wave or two towards bot side. I think that roam from Proud up towards top was really well timed. Galliardo, though, was spotted on vision. There's the ward over. So if you're ever playing against TF in your solo queue games, the most important wards you can have against him are one just outside his own turret, outside of range, to see when he is left lane. And if you're thinking that he's going to go towards one side of the map, it's just on his side of that river wall, just out towards those edges where you can see, oh, he's edging out towards there, and that means that within 2 or 3 seconds, he will be able to ult in towards those lanes.
Proud finally lethargically clears out the wards in that bush. Poor old Rel does not clear wards fast. Those auto attacks are glacial. And that's not even without the summoner. Not the summoner, the keystone? Does you still call it a keystone? I guess it's a keystone. That's what we're calling it for now. Either way, very slow to take those wards.
Maybe wants to be a little faster. What do you want for what do you want for Christmas? I want the ability to kill wards. Well, so do Graves and so do Jin. Yep, just have to suck it up sometimes. That's just the nature of the beast. And the nature of this particular beast is actually Burning Core have themselves a slight early game lead at 10 minutes into this game. And it's not something we have talked about very often at all in the LJL 2021 spring split. Herald is available towards V3. Triss gets the bomb on the tower. It's 1 plate down, gives them a little bit more gold in pocket. And the Herald is in inventory for Muujin. Dragon's coming up in a minute. That will be the next objective on the table. So we're waiting to see what happens with the map up until that point.
At this point, we would normally talk about things like using the Herald as a counterweight, buying self-pressure to start up the Dragon, but you've heard that all before at this point. And instead, I want to sort of think about, okay, Burning Core actually with a slight early game gold advantage. And I want to ask more around this question. Do you want Burning Core to fight the Drake? As actually,
well, I want Yuhi to survive this right now.
Good flash, gets himself out, but was engaged on in the 2 versus 1. It's always a bit of an issue for Yuhi. Proud roams really well, but it does leave him in some awkward 1vx scenarios and has to burn the summoner this time out.
Sure, but now actually, particularly in this case, normally you say, oh yeah, Leona ult for flash, that's a good trade. Well, now you don't have that ultimate to fight the dragon. It's going to be an ocean dragon, not necessarily the best one in terms of the raw stats, but V3 don't have that engaged tool, which they would really want to combo up with the Call of the Forge God, and they're going to lose themselves to Scuttle Crab too. Actually, maybe they won't, because Muujin turns up, they try and steal it, Muujin comes in and secures that uncontestable vision.
Does indeed. Muujin walks up, and Yuhi's like, I don't actually have flash. I probably can't sit here and get that final auto, and there's smite I'm against anyway. So does have to back away from that, and V3 do secure that one. Even if Burning Core started it up, it just becomes a leash instead.
That it does, and now a tight leash onto this dragon will soon be put, because both of these teams will be looking to secure that. This looks like the first real convergence of multiple members around an objective. Of course, we saw that top lane play a little earlier, which kind of petered out. This could be our first big fight of the game.
Rayfarki is down here without the teleport. It leaves Cog alone in the top side. And Galliardo in mid, looking to clear things up. Here comes the teleport in returns. Hollow, indeed, over the back of it. The dragon goes down already. Now, once is in a difficult position and may just die for his sins. Trying to back his way out. Can't get through, though. Flash and does go down for first blood. But the dragon is secured. And Burning Core disengage. One for dragon. Not too bad, but the Herald is still in mid and takes another couple plates. It's just the single plate remaining, and I wonder if someone can walk over and put an explosive charge on. They could take that one down relatively quickly. Of course, Tristana's gone towards bot, and that'll have to wait for another time.
It will be, the Herald does slam into that mid lane turret. First blood over to V3. Burning Core are not a team which gets a particularly large amount of first bloods, but given how this early game was going, they would have really liked that to cap off one of their better early games in this split. See Proud and Yuhi down towards the spot turret again. I think the really big thing about that play was that, okay, there was a point where Burning Core had vision of everyone from that Destiny gate, and they couldn't quite disengage in time. Once was left a little bit out to dry. On the other side, though, Cog did stay towards that top side, managed to recoup a bit of that CS deficit that they had earlier into the game, and they didn't quite manage to get themselves, well, they did get one play up towards that top side. So V3, again, winning out across the gold, losing that dragon, but they do manage to reclaim themselves a 2,000 gold lead, kind of out of the middle of nowhere at 14 minutes.
Middle of nowhere. It comes from Cog being left alone to get plates in the top side. Hollow getting to move back over to bot lane and gain 2 plates there. And 4 plates overall going down in mid alongside First Blood. That's just a lot of raw gold being injected straight into the veins of V3. And yes, Burning Core had a decent early game, but that dragon play kind of cost them a lot more than it looked like on paper. You see it right there in the gold.
Exactly. That's a huge amount of gold going over. Actually, most of that gold lead which Burning Core had was through kind of, well, I suppose it was through top lane and getting those plates themselves. Now a lot of that gold has gone on to more important people in V3, saying, all right, Ace has got some gold, Hollow's got some gold. You don't necessarily care about the gold efficiency of what's happening with this Ornn, because again, yeah, a lot of that gold has now been evened up in that mid and bot lane roles.
Once could be in a spot of bother. There comes Udyr looking to steal away the red buff and does so. And once, like, really? How has this happened again? They lose mid turret pretty quickly on for first turret. Big discrepancy in the CS there as well. Twisted Fate struggling a little bit early on in this one. And looks like the bot lane turret might not be all that far behind it either. And that will extend the gold lead to about 2,500 gold here at the 15-minute mark.
And this feels kind of like what DFM did to V3 in just the game past, right? Because it feels like Burning Core actually haven't played that badly. They've played pretty okay in the early game. And that's something which we're not used to saying about Burning Core's early game. Sometimes their late game team fights are things that we've ended up having the most praise for. But having Burning Core have this TF, have the ability to move out across the map, and then have their first ultimate stunted, and then have their mid lane tower destroyed, which means that Galliardo is now going to find that exponentially harder throughout this game. And the Zit already into the game, has their first item, has a 40 CS lead, has turret plates down too to their name. It's very difficult now for Burning Core to start engineering the plays they really want to make with their team composition.
Yeah, I think that is very aptly put. You can see Muujin storming his way towards the top side, but once is around for the counter gank if they should so wish it. And at least Rayfarki has been doing relatively well in this game. Finds himself a bit of a barrel jade with that belly slam. And Herald has spawned. And that will be Muujin starting it up. But of course, once is around and could look to trade back onto this. They have got to be aware this is going on. But I think they might just be a little slow here. Just waiting for the eye to pop again. And I think it will be dead to rights. Yeah, there you go. All about done. And once is just going to recall. Not come over to contest. So that will be another Herald in inventory for V3 Esports.
It will be. And you can think, well, why don't you contest that? Why don't you have TF ult in? Well, that's kind of a bit of a Hail Mary at this point in the game, because you've lost vision control in the river, you've lost first turret, you've And then on the other side, actually, Hollow and Rhino just decide, okay, for the first time this game, we're not going to push him because we know that is the counterplay, and Burning Core are left without any good options themselves. I mean, we know that V3 have had a lot of first turrets in these games. We know that Burning Core, conversely, haven't. This has often been because of their early lane states, and then potentially early fights going against them and snowballing into those turrets falling down. But now the question is, after this point, what can Burning Core do with their composition at hand? And it seems like actually they're running out of options perilously early into this game.
This has kind of been my issue with Burning Core, and it just is that, yes, you've got some great playmakers, but if your mid and bot lane are consistently down this much early on, then you have to fight from such a deficit every game. You don't have the same platform to support your jungler either, and it has proven incredibly problematic. Everfrost now completed for Galliardo on the Twisted Fate for more CC. It is so strong on this patch, don't get me wrong, but you are looking down the barrel of a 3,000 gold lead now. You are looking down 2 turrets. And you're looking down a Cloud Drake and a teleport coming in. This will be Ray Farkey coming in with the Frozen Fist, or rather coming completed Frostfire Gauntlet. I will get it right. There we go. Got it written down for me in front of me as well. The engage coming through for Leona. Exhaust down as well. And Reiner now in a lot of trouble. That's the Magnet Storm. It's a 1 dead man already. Collateral damage came through and out comes Ace, but he's dead because the killer instinct comes through. And Burning Core found the fight even from the disadvantage. They're going to find a third as well. And this time, Burning Core are the ones that punish the Drake start.
3 kills for 1. That's a big fight. Of course it is. I mean, you look at that, it's the only big fight we've had during the whole game so far. Where does it come from? V3 don't manage to get Tristana jumping in. They don't manage to get Yuhi down early enough. A lot of that comes from Very Farky separating out the team, and Proud with the wonderful engage on the Rel. Talked about how nice it was to see Gang on a playmaking pick back in the LJL in that last game. Well, Proud has been holding up a lot of the support level in the LJL with their support picks too. Where does this start? Kokok on the Ornn doing the Ornn special, really, and trying to split the team. It's just as Ray Farky forces away a lot of the team with their own ultimate. But then you look at Mujin and Hollow and Ace, they're all sat there thinking, well, yeah, we want to finish off the dragon first. A key factor as well is actually the smoke screen from Graves lands right on top of Ace. He can't actually start putting out the damage he wants to. He doesn't have the chance to get in and start shuffling. Then that means that actually it just looks like V3 across most of this fight, just very, very split. And Burning Core just capitalize.
The Leone ult didn't really hit all that much. The Call of the Forge God didn't really hit all that much, and the turnaround there from Burning Core was pretty well managed. They managed to get a turret in mid lane. Herald number 2 is summoned in top, and that will keep a bit of a gold lead here for V3, but it is significantly smaller than it was just before that dragon fight. And they're going to try and shunt down this Herald. They do so, do Burning Core, and they'll stunt that trade into the top side, but it will still cost them a lot of their red side jungle. A lot of wards in there as well, and once again left wondering why, oh why is my jungle not my jungle?
There is that. I mean, so I guess the bonus of this now somehow is that at least the map is going to be a little more broken open for Twisted Fate plays to be made. The problem is, because it's V3 who have broken open that map and they are forcing themselves into the enemy jungle, is that they're going to have the vision advantage, which again we've said is so important versus the likes of your Twisted Fate and your Rel, and it's very important to have that for the side of your Tristana Leona kill combo too. Now speaking of that, Tristana going to be wave clearing that mid lane, as so often AD carries find themselves doing, or at least have done for the last couple of years in the League of Legends professional metagame, and we have ourselves a bit more of a quiet time to mull over the state of the game, Sam.
Yes, we do. We can sit here and consider thoughtfully how this game has gone. And right now, honestly, it's been relatively even. Yes, V3 kind of came away with a significant early game advantage. They still have a lead right now, at least in terms of the gold. But it's only about 1,500 at the 20-minute mark. And Burning Core have actually managed to get themselves into a point where once in particular, 2 1-on-1 on this Graves could definitely be a bit of a threat. Yuhi as well has managed to get themselves towards a last whisper as well. Knows they're going to be hitting frontline a lot here between the Ornn and the Leona and the Udyr before they can jump into the backline. So that last whisper second item, honestly, I kind of like. And, you know, they've still got options in this game and are not going down without a fight. They are still in playoff contention. Yes, they have only got 3 wins, but they get this win against the run of play, and they make their life so much easier.
Dude, this win gives them a second chance to get into playoffs were they to lose against the Hawks. So it doesn't instantly get them into playoffs. In fact, win against the Hawks would be much more preferred for them. But coming in on this form, this is a much higher level than I think we'd actually expected of them. And maybe our producer, Reed, was not quite as off base as we were making it to be. Jokes aside in the pre-game, Burning Core making this much more competitive than, well, our opinions and a lot of that as community would have made you think.
Indeed, and kind of casting our eyes across the map, casting our eyes around there, still in that kind of dead space with a bit of shoving on. We've got about a minute till that dragon, which will be our next point of contention. Burning Core coming in to grab the wards. A reminder of what's at stake here, guys. Burning Core win this, and they move themselves to 4 wins and secure themselves, I believe, at least a tiebreaker to get into playoffs. Winning this will also push Axis out of the slim hope they have of getting into playoffs themselves. Basically, they need Hawks and Burning Core to lose all of their games today over this match and the next 2 that follow, and Axis still have a chance. Otherwise, they are done. Burning Core winning this get them a lot more in this.
It gets them a lot more. There's a chance there is no tiebreaker, of course, if the Hawks went on to beat Detonation Focus Me, but it's understandable why we don't think that is the most likely of opportunities. Speaking of opportunities, Burning Core over the last minute have taken their opportunity to clear out a lot of wards on their side of the map leading up to this dragon, doing their homework, doing all their due diligence, trying to make sure that the sweepers are used to maximum effect. They cleared out a good 3 or 4 wards between this mid lane area heading down towards the bottom side. Ace has his Verdant Barrier, or at least actually, well, sorry, the Banshee's Veil popped, and now with the Twisted Fate ultimate is popped, and he's going into the mid lane with it.
He does indeed. Spots out where everybody is. There's some wards on either side of the river for Burning Core, but not all that many in it anymore after V3 walk on through and take those out. But now Burning Core will return the favor and look to get in here. They might try and trade it for Baron. I mean, they've got a Tristana and a Azir. They can do it pretty damn fast. And Burning Core are very quick to go, okay, we need to get over and start contesting. Once going to be left alone with the Drake. He's going to take it down to about half HP already. So that is down to, I believe, the 4 versus 5 Baron down to about half HP. Once is not there. Important to note. So that is no spite. They can try and rush this down. They are doing so. It's down to 1000 HP. They take it. It was gone so damn quickly. But now the fight must continue for Burning Core. They're looking to get in here once coming over. And I think V3 have disengaged and got Baron out of it. They rushed it so quickly.
Decisive as you like. V3, okay, they might have flubbed that earlier dragon fight, but when push comes to shove with these objectives, they understand the damage numbers. Hollow even jumps forward to try and increase the speed at which they could arrive at that Baron. And V3 now have themselves this full court press with a Baron buff to boot.
That was a nice turnaround because it was starting to look like Burning Core were fighting on even footing. They bring in a ringer. They bring in the Baron buff, and that is the 6th man sort of supernaturally added to this squad. Going to make their 1-3-1, their side lane pressure that much harder. They've got 2 minutes left of it. That'll be Burning Core feeling a little bit aggrieved, thinking they were going to at least come over and contest. It just wasn't quite quick enough.
No, they didn't have themselves a TF ult to see vision of what was happening with the Baron. Of course, that was used for Gallardo in the onset of that Dragon play itself. Now V3 have this Tristana. They have themselves the Azir. Both very prime tower killers, although the Nashor's Tooth is not built up for the Azir just yet, so it's not quite as bad as it could be for Burning Core. And they are going to start taking themselves their toll across the map.
Burning Core are here in force in the bot lane to try and ward away some of these V3 members, but that bot lane tier 2 has already gone down, and Muujin is playing a bit of the Trick 2G style, and he is the split pusher this time out.
He will be, and the thing is that Udyr can move quickly between lanes in a way that the other champions can't, just because of that chem tank, because of the move speed build, which you so often see from the Udyr, right? Because move speed is such an important stat for him. So he clears out the wave, has the Baron buff minions to escort into tower himself, and that means that V3 picking up a lot of waves across the map. Burning Core losing quite a lot of them to tower, losing a lot of towers alongside that. It's already a 2,000 gold tower play. At least it's only a 3,000 to 4,000 gold lead. It could actually be a lot worse at this point in the game. Question is, Burning Core, where are you going to find your fight? What are you waiting for? Because right now, it feels like they're really getting, again, not for the first time today, choked out of these fights. They're going for for the ult. This is the play.
The moment you ask for it, it goes scary, but he's locked in a red card? Why the red card? He's going to come through, and that means V3 gets a disengage, but Proud goes into the back line. Can anybody else follow up? That's a big attract, repel, and the collateral damage does what Gadiaru cannot. Mujin's into the backside, but he doesn't get to do all that much. He's exhausted in turn. And they find one and force V3 to disengage.
Ace?
And the Baron recall is there to get him out. No flash. Well, the flash is there, but he can't get in range from Gadiaru. And Burning Core break the back of what could have been a significantly more powerful Baron play, but they can't pick up all that many people in the fight either.
They can't, okay, going back into the replay immediately, what happens is the double globals collapsing onto the 1-3-1. This is why often we see a 1-4 instead of having someone else into a side lane. And you're right, it is the red card locked in. I wonder if it's because he was looking towards a multiple slow, get a slow onto Ace and to Hollow. That could have been very important. Speaking of Hollow, he escapes the initial engage. Proud doesn't land it onto absolutely everyone, but the exhaust coming down means that he can't get his own turnaround damage either. Ace gets out by the slimmest of margins. Of course, the collateral damage not enough to finish them off. It means that Burning Core do take themselves a micro victory, and they stop the bleeding of that Baron power play. They're still in this game.
They are still in this game, and Proud went very, very deep. And you've also got to remember, he comes with a big tether that stunned everybody else behind him as well. The attract repel gets everybody in a really split up fight there, and got to give credit to that engage, especially after the teleport from Twisted Fate wasn't as impactful as perhaps he would like. Good stuff there from Burning Core to try and break up that fight, even if they didn't get everything they wanted. I appreciate the ability, because literally, as you were asking, you need to do something or they're going to lose a lot out of this. They pull the trigger.
I think part of that is, part of it's on V3, right? Because playing with a Baron buff like that, you know that the way you lose against global comps is by overcommitting across the map, spreading yourself too thin, and that's what we're saying. Even though V3 took early towers, actually that can work in the TF's advantage, and they didn't do their due diligence in clearing out wards behind them. Brayfarki also finds a teleport. They get collapsed on the 3-man unit, even though everyone else does manage to arrive for the fight. It just gives the opening that Burning Core do seize the chance with.
You can see as well, 15 seconds until this dragon. Gadiaru is split pushing away. He's gone very much for pick build here. Everfrost into rapid fire cannon is all about CC as often and as easily as you can get it. It's not about split pushing. It's not a Lich Bane build
Proud's
or
been
anything
seen
like
by
that.
Mujin here.
I think he probably has. He's going to come round and into it. They're going to turn onto the Rel, but she crashes down and actually gets out of Leona, who goes in and finds herself in a bit of a difficult position. Gadiaru has gated in onto the side to try and cause some difficulty over there. Once fighting around for the dragon, Mujin stunned up, taken so damn low. Collateral damage does the rest of the work, and once on this, Graves is definitely beginning to take some scalps. They get another kill. They take out the third Drake for themselves. They are at soul point, and they're going to start looking to try and command some control around this Baron. And V3 are on the wrong side of the map without a minion wave and down a member.
That could have gone so much worse on the back end of that play, though, because you still have a flash from Gadiaru, who has a rapid fire cannon to start buffing up these gold cards. It's so dangerous when you do flub that engage, don't land the decisiveness that you really need. Burning Core take themselves another fight, and honestly, this Twisted Fate pick, you understand why it's banned so much in the meta, and understand why it's banned even against a team with so little success in this split so far as Burning Core. Going back into the replay, how does this all start? It starts with an attempted pick onto Proud, who was seen by the sweeper earlier, which was being run by Mujin. Doesn't end up working out though. Reiner gets their Zenith Blade cancelled, and Gadiaru gets to continually threaten the backline. This means that Reiner doesn't have the ability to walk forward, even with the Solar Flare and the Flash available. It just stops once again. Hollow being able to pop off and have that CC in place to pin someone in place, but they start hammering away at them.
Indeed. Brief correction as well from earlier. I said that Axes could still potentially get in, and of course they can't, because Burning Core and Hawks play off next. So one of those guys will end up at 4 wins and therefore eliminating Axis. That's on me. Production slapped my wrist, telling me I'm very wrong. And they are right, because I am in fact very wrong. Mujin going for what looked like a little bit of a flank there as I...
He's so fast. He's
is
so fast with Dead Man's Fully Stack. I was like, oh, he must have popped Ghost or
No.
something like that. No, it's just Bear Stance, and we
Here
do
comes
have
in.
a fight coming in.
But they get onto Rayfarki and don't get as much damage as they would like, and Reiner gets traded back on, but of course that is a Gragas who might now be in a spot of bother. Gadiaru is gated in. Remember, they've got the rapid fire cannon. Who does it go on to? It's Mujin alongside the Everfrost, but they don't really get as much damage down as they would like. Rayfarki heals up because he can just drink, and his liver transforms alcohol into health, because that is the way the world works, clearly. And now we're going to see V3 start up the Baron. Teleport coming back in as Ray Farkey went back to base. Gario still stepping forwards. They try to jump onto him, but he's going to cleanse out.
Oh,
and now right
Brown!
into trouble. And Brown does it one more time. He goes down for his sins, though. But Ray Farkey finds a 3-man body slam. And that will be Gary Arrow once picking up the rest of it. Hollow escapes on no HP. Ace is dead. Mugen is dead. Reiner is dead. And they are going to turn onto the Baron, and Burning Core win another fight.
Burning Core at the bottom of the barrel of their own performances this split, come around at the end of it all and stand proud. Huge engage on the rel comes up with maybe the team fight victory Burning Core need to give themselves one last chance this split.
Let's look at this one more time, because V3 started it by going on to Ray Farkey and not getting all that much for their trouble.
And this is the thing about this game. It feels like Reiner has just overcommitted, lost half their HP on a numerous sets of engages now, and even last game, right, Reiner didn't have the best of performances, struggling to make things stick. Gadiaru comes out, but he has enough tenacity at this point in the game, and this is kind of a bit of support diff in this fight. Yuhi dives in far too deep, does die for it, but Hollow is already chunked out to, well, just to basically 5%, 10% HP. The damage is already done by that point. Ray Farkey cleans things up. And remember, there are 2 AD carries in this game on the side of Burning Core. Once is already putting out a lot of damage too.
Collateral damage across everybody was beautiful. Got to call out Ray Farkey as well with that 3-man body slam to turn around the end of the fight. Some really nice stuff there. 3 items complete for Once, who's still not completed his boots, by the way. He's been sitting on brown bags for a very long time in this game, which amuses me a little. And Gariadu definitely feeling himself a little bit right now. That is a Medjai's in inventory with 15 stacks, and he's feeling pretty happy.
But the thing is, actually, that's really important for the extra move speed. Once you get over 10 stacks on a Medjai's Soul Stealer, you get extra flat move speed, which then, of course, is really important for the side of this Twisted Fate, who is looking to start using that. Well, of course, he doesn't exactly have a gap close. He doesn't have the Proto Belt himself. He's got the Everfrost. He's using that to get in range for this rapid-fire autos. Just knowing you have a move speed discrepancy against the enemy team is very important for this Twisted Fate. It means you can run down people and threaten them.
For the first time this game, Burning Core have a significant gold lead, and they have so much standing gold to get. There are a lot of outer towers remaining. They are here as a 5-man unit because they want to make the most of this. And they're aware that just as they tried to pull the trigger, V3 could return the favor. They've got the tools to make a split map very difficult for Burning Core. So they are being a little cautious. They've moved the Twisted Fatal. And remember, with this Cloud Drake spawning in a second, they want to be here to get this soul and put themselves in an even better position. Proud and Ray Farkey playing Gatekeeper as Mugen is around the side.
Okay, split fight. Mugen looking for something. Ray Farkey holding the front line.
It's gone down already. It's dead to rights. That is Soul. And now they're going to try and turn it onto Mugen, but he is still very, very quick. And Burning Core trying to disengage towards the bot lane. V3 still looking to come over. Collateral damage just popped, doesn't get all that much for it. Gold card only onto Cog. And Burning Core still around, still trying to get out. And they do manage to disengage. They've got Soul to their name. It's a Baron power play. It gets them a lead, but they don't take all that many towers because they decide to go for Soul instead of pushing for all the structures that they could have done.
So they don't, but you know what we were talking about with that move speed discrepancy? It just got worse. Cloud Soul giving that permanent move speed bonus to Burning Core, and if you pop your ultimate, you get that increased from 10% up to 30%. Gariado comes in with the gate. He can just go for a flank, come in with a lot of move speed, and someone like Hollow, yeah, they do have the QSS. Well, it's going to get popped. A Mugen way out of sorts here.
That's a very aggressive one, but he just drops the Crab Brave and runs away. What is this? God. He thought he was dead, and he just he says, yeah, am I? And I think in the space of about seconds flat.
He's just running in the 90s. He just can't get rid of him. He just initial D's his way out of there.
Do you like my car, or at least my dead man play, as Mugen pulls the trigger and starts screaming away at the speed of sound. Does escape after what looked like a very ill-advised invade. And yes, Baron buff might be down, but the split push ain't done yet. And finally, all the outer towers are down for Burning Core. Bot lane tier 1 goes down, and Burning Core up about 2,000 gold right now. They have themselves the Cloud Soul, and they are in a very good position to just win this game.
But are they actually up in combat stats? Because Ornn has upgraded items. That's not something we touched on just so far. Has their own Frostfire Gauntlet upgraded. I can't remember the names of any of these, but you see everyone but Leona now has one of those items upgraded. And for every item that Ornn upgrades, they get extra HP, armor, and magic resist. They're going to be very, very tanky at the end of this game, get one more level and have the maximum value out of the passive. galliardo manages to get out of that bot lane, actually in a relatively dangerous situation there. And he goes back, finishes the Lich Bane, which is so often completed early for a Twisted Fate. That means that he's packing a lot of punch with those cards.
So, to remind people what those new items are, of course, Frostfire Gauntlet has upgraded into a Rime-Forged Grass. I do like the use of the word rhyme there. Muujin, partly why he was so fast, he's got a turbocharged Experiment in his inventory now. Liandry's is now a Lament, not an Anguish. And Tristan, of course, has moved her way up to what looks to be a Worm-Fallen Sacrifice.
See, that's the one I remember. That's the one.
There we
It's
go.
a
It's a
very
cool name.
very Lovecraftian. And another Lovecraftian thing is actually that Baron Nashor spawning in 50 seconds. That could be where the game is determined. One more big fight, particularly when we have such high tower damage on both of these teams from the likes of the Azir, Tristana, and even the TF, means that things are likely to be decided off of one more fight if enough people are left alive at the end of it. One more clean fight, and that could be playoffs, tiebreakers, and a whole lot of drama decided for the LJL split.
Of course, V3 may have lost the last couple of fights. They have lost the soul, but they have still got a Tristana and an Azir now at 3.5 items, nearly a death cap, frankly, for Ace, who honestly, once he's got that gold, will probably just go back and teleport back in if he damn well has to. These guys are super, super strong, plus Ornn items as well. That is a Liandry's Lament and a Worm-Fallen Sacrifice to reiterate. If they get to stand and fight, they will just delete people still. But in goes Rayfaki, keeping us only onto Kog and Muujin. Just around on this flank, and you've got to remember, yes, there is a little bit of a range discrepancy, a pick discrepancy, with galliardo just being obnoxious, and Proud has found some beautiful engages, but it only takes one good team fight, and V3 do have the tools in this late game. It's 38 minutes into the game, for crying out loud, to really make Burning Core suffer still.
You're not wrong about that one. Just one Q took off about a quarter of Once's HP from Ace on this Azir. At this point, if you get that death cap, honestly, if you lock someone in place, they just die. There is something to be said about move speed not actually giving you the combat stats to deal more damage or take less. Baron taking the damage now.
Is Twisted Fate roaming up as fast as he can. He's looking for the gate. It's definitely late enough into the game that the range is pretty extended. He's found a good flank. He's got to find it onto Hollow, who does have the QSS, but it's Tumble right back in. Hollow survived, though. He will go down finally to Yuhi, who's trying to run around. Now in the back end of this, one's trying to get out. Once gets Ace. That is huge. And they find Muujin as well. And Yuhi lives for so damn long. And now Rayfaki is running down Leona. And the flank from galliardo synced up so damn well with the Gragas. And it will be Leona, the dying of the light, run down by the Fnatic skin. Rayfaki gets that last kill. It is 4 for 1. Well, rather 4 for 2, because of course he at the end of it, 12 kills to 4. We talked about the turret taking abilities, and Burning Core may well have just won them the game that will get them into playoffs.
It's giving them an extra lifeline. They're trying to... Oh, Kog trying to clear the wave. I don't think it's enough.
I don't think it is. The Nexus turrets are going down. Second one falls once, has so much damage. They'll throw out an end of the line towards Kog. And if that is not a nascent ability to throw out at the end of it all, what is? Burning Core find themselves the 4th win and may well have found themselves in playoffs.
And I am left stunned, as was, of course, Hollow in that last fight. Gold card lands. You can only one QSS one ability. You're talking about the sync up between galliardo and, of course, Rayfaki. That gold card into suddenly the Everfrost, into suddenly the knockup and everything. That Tristana just could not get a clean team fight that game. Burning Core give themselves a fighting chance.
Indeed. We're also very excited here. Reed is very excited and gloating a little bit about his prediction in chat. He called for the Burning Core win, and we feel a little bit silly here on the desk as my camera decides it's going to melt. And with that note, we're going to go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have ourselves an analyst desk. Oh dear.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the desk. Must one initialize Nightmare. Gentlemen, I'm not going to do too much of a long intro because we just saw maybe one of the craziest upsets at the very end of the spring split. V3 Esports lost to Burning Core week 7. And it all started when the pick and ban phase when Twisted Fate got let through for Gadiadu Nightmare. What is going on?
If there are picks we talk about for certain players, we think about maybe Arya's Silas, we think about Sirius's Heimerdinger, Evie maybe his Akali at this point, or maybe his Gnar, or something like that, right? One of the other players in the LGL, for those of you who are not so familiar with this region, is Gadiado's Twisted Fate. Gadiado has been a mid laner in this region for, what, a good 3-4 years at the highest level, I suppose. He used to be on USG, then moved over onto Axis, now are here on Burning Core. We've waited a while to see if it would be an upgrade over UGL. We assumed it would be. It didn't necessarily work out that way for most of the split. But what a game this guy put in on his signature champion.
What a performance on one of his signature champions. I'm honestly just blown away by the performance he's had on this Twisted Fate. And it all started there. I mean, initialized, we were talking before we came in here, proud on that rel and engaged support like you were highlighting.
That's kind of it, isn't it? So hang on, they've got Gary Arrow on something get out of lane and affect the map. They've got one Sonic carry that doesn't fall ages behind in the early game. In fact, maybe starts to get some advantages. Proud and engaged support, and suddenly, yes, they have some narrow win conditions, but they found the ones they needed, and Proud on this rel as well. Did so much work. Every team fight post the early game was Proud finding some ridiculous multi-man engages, be it in the mid lane, be it around Dragon, be it around Baron. Great game from this guy.
So that first kind of part, because V3 Esports, it looked like were coming out on top. They were getting the plates, they got the first blood, they got second dragon into that first turret in the mid lane, Nightmare, and V3 looked pretty good. It looked like Burning Core might be able to take the early game, but V3 said prevented that really more than anything else.
Yeah, so I mean, again, there's some praise towards Burning Core in terms of, okay, once getting some camp steals off, which he's failed to do for most of this split. Part of that's because of lane pressure, part of that's because of misplays by themselves. And heck, I remember when he got 1v1 by Crash's Talia, trying to just get himself back into the game. He's often doubled down. This game, he actually managed to be a bit more reserved and still come out with a couple of very important moments like that. Particularly at that point where they got Ray Farkey a couple of plates in their top lane. At the same time, we saw that mid and bot lane were going towards V3. We kind of expected that from the Tristana Leona in that bot side, and that meant that when we saw the supports roaming out of lane, he was often kind of sat there playing second fiddle to this Tristana and then wondering when Leona was going to come back. And a couple of flashes were forced out of this Kai'Sa, trying and safely farm a turret. That eventually led to a lot of these incremental leads in vision and chip damage on towers going the side of V3. And yes, it did end up culminating in that mid lane turret falling down falling down in that mid lane for Burning Core.
And it looked like everything was going favored V3. They were slowly starting to do something. They were able to get that Baron uncontested. First Baron went down, and it seemed like V3 were going to push the tempo going until Proud came along initialize.
Yeah, he did. So things had kind of been falling a little away for Burning Core. As we kind of said, they traded a lot to get onto the Dragon board. They lost a lot of towers from it. They got a couple kills, but they're down a lot of gold. Then they go and try to do Dragon again, and Burning Core just turn and burn the Baron, and they don't get there in time. It's like, And then, of course, you've got to remember, there is still a Twisted Fate in the game, and there are still a couple teleports that come through, and Gariaru throws his face at them. Doesn't get that much for it, but they burn quite a lot to disengage a TF who'd locked in a red card. It wasn't the biggest deal. And then Proud snaps his fingers, flash, crash down, magnet storm, onto the backline, and then attract repels the two people he left behind at the same moment. They only get the one kill, but they force 8 outburn his summoners, and they stifle the Baron play. They don't get to break the base, they don't get to take all that many turrets, and they stop the gold lead ballooning to unmanageable levels.
And I think the thing for me is that this was a 1-3-1 from V3. In Baron plays, particularly since like season 9-10, we have seen an increase of people going for 1-4 instead of 1-3-1 because of the ample amounts of globals, double teleports being run, and the ability to really crush down on this 3-man unit with a 5-man unit. That's exactly what happened here. V3 got a bit cocky.
Yeah, and Burning Core was just preventing V3 from even using that gold advantage lead that they had. They prevented them from doing much, and Burning Core were actually able to come out with that Dragon Soul. So then when you look at it, Burning Core actually turned this game on an axis. And I think we have to go back, really, to Proud slapping V3 around this second Baron, and things going absolutely crazy initialize.
Yeah, I think part of it starts off as well as the sync was not there. The synergy wasn't there between Cog and Reiner. The Solar Flares and the Call of the Forge Gods were never layered that effectively onto the people that mattered. Namely the Kai'Sa, namely that Graves, which did so much damage in that game. And in return, Burning Core had a Gragas that synergized so well with the Rel, synergized so well with the Twisted Fate. And yeah, that Baron, where Rel gets to go in again, followed up by Ray Farkey getting a 3-man body slam just to knock up everybody else. The synergy for the CC was there. The timings were there for Burning Core, and it really paid off in these team fights, even against a late game Tristana and Azir with Ornn items. They should have been able to stand a fire, and they never got a chance.
I mean, that brings us on to that final fight, Nightmare. Baron being started up again by V3 Esports. Burning Core got the second one and did so much more with it. V3 just got stifled on their first Baron, and they took that cleanly without any real contention. Well, they tried to go for a third one, and Proud and Burning Core, especially Gadiadu on this one as well, on that Twisted Fate, really had a lot to say about it.
The key moment for this fight was, okay, so you've got the TF ult coming in, takes him around to the enemy blue buff, where he's out of vision. You know they've got a pink ward on that brush too. He knows he's completely unseen. He's got his rapid fire cannon, he's got himself the Everfrost too, locks in the gold card, gets the gold card onto the Tristana, then the Everfrost as soon as the QSS is popped. Ray Farkey's there in time too. They get so much layered CC that Hollow gets out just about with about 200 HP, which is one auto. And that's like one auto away from death. And precisely that's exactly what happens. Hollow is then off the board. Ace has to disengage too. He doesn't get to have a big combo because it is so multi-directional. He doesn't get to control things front to back as they would like. The fight goes completely in Burning Core's favor after that pick happens. Even though, of course, Yuhi dies on the other side of the fight. It just didn't matter.
And through all of this, the biggest loss is that I am now changing my prediction for Hawks Burning Core now. So I'm just so like I have to now hedge my bets because Burning Core looks so good, gentlemen. And before this, I was all about the Hawks. Like this game has well and truly shown that it is still all to play for at this point in time, but that will have to bring us to the end of our analyst desk for this match. Initialize, we will be departing from you now. Do you have anything you want to say with these first two games for us?
I am super excited for how we've set up for our match of the week, frankly, because we chose well. We are going to get a match of the week that really matters here. This is the last playoff spot on the line, and Burning Core versus Hawks pretty much decides it, or at least could decide it. And I'm so excited to just sit back and watch this one. I'll have my popcorn ready, I'll have my coffee ready, and I am so ready to get in and watch this one.
It's going to be an exciting one for sure. But when we come back from that break, we'll have our guest caster Counterfeit coming on to the desk and talking over some of his thoughts for Burning Core facing off in our match of the week against the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back after this break.